What if everything we believe about the birth of a civilization is wrong? Not slightly wrong, but completely upside down. As if a forgotten chapter of human history was erased on purpose, leaving behind only one impossible clue buried beneath the earth, waiting to be rediscovered. For thousands of years, we told ourselves a simple story about who we are and where we came from. We believed that humanity slowly climbed out of the darkness, learned to farm, built villages, then cities, and only then began to create monuments and symbols of meaning. It is a clean timeline, comfortable and logical, a story that makes us feel like we understand our own past. But deep in southeastern Turkey, something was uncovered that refuses to fit inside that story. Something so old and so complex that it forces us to question whether we ever truly understood our origins at all. Göbekli Tepe is not just an archaeological site. It feels more like a message from a world we were never supposed to see. Massive stone pillars, carved with mysterious symbols and towering figures, stand where they should not exist in time. Because according to everything we know, the people who built them should not have been capable of building them at all. And yet they did. Or something did. And that contradiction is where the real mystery begins. In the mid-1990s, something completely unexpected happened on a quiet hill in southeastern Turkey. A discovery that at first seemed ordinary, almost forgettable, but would soon force the world to question everything it thought it knew about human history. A German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt arrived at the site with a simple expectation: just another routine excavation, another search for traces of early settlement in a region already rich with ancient history. The hill itself didn't look special. Locals had passed by it for generations without giving it much attention. It was just earth, stone, and silence. But very quickly, that silence began to feel strange. As the first layers of soil were carefully removed, something unusual appeared beneath the surface. Not scattered fragments, not broken pieces of pottery, but carefully shaped stones. Then more stones. And then something even more shocking. Massive carved pillars, arranged in circles, as if they were part of something far larger, something intentional. At first, nobody could explain what they were looking at. The structures didn't match anything expected from that time period. They were too complex, too organized, too advanced. It felt like discovering a sentence written in a language that should not exist yet. And that's when the real problem began. According to everything we understand about human history, this site should not exist. At this point in time, humans were believed to be small groups of hunter-gatherers, moving from place to place, surviving day by day. No cities, no large-scale construction, no known ability to shape and move massive stone monuments. And yet, here it was, buried beneath the earth, perfectly placed, waiting for someone to find it. The deeper they dug, the more impossible it became. The carvings on the pillars showed detailed animals, mysterious symbols, and figures that seemed to carry meaning we still cannot fully decode. It was not random. It was deliberate. It was designed. And that raises a question that no one can easily answer even today. Who built this place? And why was it hidden from the world for so long? Before we continue, if you're finding this story as fascinating as I think you are, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more documentaries like this, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because trust me, this story only gets stranger from here. Now, think about this for a second. How could people from over 11,000 years ago create something this advanced without leaving behind any clear explanation of who they were? And more importantly, what else might we still be missing from our understanding of ancient history? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Göbekli Tepe changes everything we know about human civilization? Or are we still missing a key piece of the puzzle? Because what comes next will challenge that question even further. What makes Göbekli Tepe even more disturbing is not just what it is, but when it exists. Because according to everything we have been taught about human history, this site should not be here at all. We are told a simple story about the past. Humanity begins as small groups of hunter-gatherers surviving in a harsh world, slowly learning to farm, to settle, to build villages. And only then, much later, do they develop architecture, religion, and large-scale construction. It is a clean timeline, a logical progression, a story that makes sense. But Göbekli Tepe breaks that story completely. This site is over 11,000 years old. That means it existed long before the rise of cities, long before writing, long before the civilizations we associate with early human achievement. And yet, standing beneath the soil are massive stone circles, carefully arranged, carved with symbols and figures that suggest planning, meaning, and purpose. It doesn't look primitive. It looks intentional. And that is where the contradiction begins. Because if we follow the accepted timeline, the people who lived during this time were not supposed to have the tools, the organization, or even the lifestyle required to build something like this. No permanent settlements, no advanced technology, no known reason to invest enormous effort into carving and moving multi-ton stone pillars across the landscape. And yet, they did. Or something did. Even more unsettling is the sense of design inside the site itself. The pillars are not randomly placed. They form circular enclosures, almost like gathering spaces or ceremonial centers. The carvings are not decorative noise. They repeat patterns. Animals appear again and again. Symbols are positioned with intention, as if they were part of a language we have not yet learned to read. This is not what we expect from early human societies. It feels too structured, too advanced, too aware. And so the question starts to shift. Instead of asking, how did they build this? We begin to ask something far more uncomfortable. What if we are completely wrong about what early humans were capable of? Before we continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more deep historical mysteries, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because in the next part, we step even deeper into the mystery, where the real engineering of Göbekli Tepe makes things even harder to explain. And at that point, the site stops feeling like history and starts feeling like something else entirely. The deeper archaeologists looked into Göbekli Tepe, the more the site stopped feeling like an ancient settlement and started feeling like something completely out of place in human history. Because it's not just the age that is shocking, it's the scale. Massive stone pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, stand upright in carefully arranged circles. These are not small, movable stones. These are giant blocks of limestone that would require enormous effort just to transport, let alone carve and position with precision. And yet, according to everything we know about this time period, none of the necessary tools or systems should have existed. No metal tools, no wheels, no written instructions, no known large-scale workforce structure, and no permanent settlements capable of organizing such a project. So the question becomes unavoidable. How did they do this? Even today, moving stones of this size would require advanced engineering, machinery, and coordinated planning. But Göbekli Tepe suggests that thousands of years ago, someone or someone achieved it without any of those advantages. And it doesn't stop at transportation. The carving itself is even more unsettling. The pillars are covered in detailed reliefs of animals, symbols, and abstract forms. Lions, vultures, snakes, and foxes appear repeatedly, almost like they carry meaning beyond decoration. The precision is deliberate. The patterns are structured. Nothing feels random. It feels like communication, but from a world we no longer understand. And then there's the arrangement. The stones are not scattered or chaotic. They form circular enclosures, almost like gathering spaces designed for something important. Some researchers suggest rituals, others suggest ceremonies, but no one can say for sure because there is no clear cultural explanation attached to them. And that is where the tension grows even stronger, because every new detail makes the same idea harder to ignore, that whoever built this site was capable of far more than we expected from people of that era. But if that is true, then it forces an even deeper question. Why does history not remember them? Why does nothing like this appear again for thousands of years afterward? And most importantly, was Göbekli Tepe an isolated achievement, or the final remaining trace of something much larger that we have completely lost? Before we continue, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more mysteries like this, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because in the next part, we go into the biggest mystery of all. Not how it was built, but who could have built it. And that answer may be more unsettling than the stones themselves. After everything we see at Göbekli Tepe, the most disturbing question slowly rises above all the others. Who actually built it? Because the strange truth is this: we don't just lack a clear answer, we lack even a clear starting point. There are no written records, no inscriptions that tell a story, no symbols that clearly identify a culture or a known civilization. It appears suddenly in the archaeological timeline, fully formed, as if it was dropped into history from somewhere else. And then, just as mysteriously, it disappears. This is where archaeologists begin to struggle, because nothing about the expected timeline fits comfortably anymore. The people of this time were assumed to be hunter-gatherers, moving in small groups, focused entirely on survival. Not building massive ceremonial complexes, not organizing large construction efforts, and certainly not carving symbolic stone monuments with such precision. And yet, Göbekli Tepe exists. Some researchers suggest that perhaps these were early communities working together across regions, gathering seasonally to build something greater than themselves, a kind of shared ritual site that slowly grew over generations. It is a reasonable idea, but even that explanation feels incomplete when you look at the scale and coordination required. Because this is not a small structure. This is a complex network of stone enclosures, each carefully planned, each carved with intention, each requiring effort that would have taken enormous cooperation. And then there is another idea, one that sits at the edge of academic comfort. What if we are underestimating early humans entirely? What if the people of that time were far more capable, far more organized, and far more symbolic than we ever imagined? Not primitive, but simply lost to time in a way that erased their complexity from history.
And then there is a darker possibility that some researchers hesitate to even suggest. What if Göbekli Tepe represents a completely lost branch of human development? A culture that rose, built, created meaning on a massive scale, and then vanished before it could leave a lasting trace in written history. Because there is another unsettling detail. After Göbekli Tepe, we do not see a gradual continuation of this level of construction. Instead, history appears to reset, and thousands of years pass before similar complexity appears again in later civilizations. It is as if something was interrupted or erased.
And that brings us back to the original mystery, even deeper than before. If we don't know who built it, then we also don't know what else they built. And that leads to a question that becomes impossible to ignore. Why was it all buried? Before we continue, make sure you like the video, subscribe for more historical mysteries like this, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because in the next chapter, we uncover something even stranger than the builders themselves. The moment Göbekli Tepe was deliberately hidden from the world. What happens next at Göbekli Tepe is where the mystery takes an even darker and more unsettling turn. Because it is not just what was built that confuses archaeologists, but what was done to it afterward. At some point in its ancient past, long after the massive stone circles were constructed and used, something extraordinary happened. The entire site was deliberately buried. Not destroyed, not abandoned, but carefully filled in. Layer after layer of earth, soil, and debris was placed over the carved pillars, covering them completely. It was not a sudden collapse or a natural disaster. The way the site was sealed suggests intention, effort, and time. Whoever did it did not act in panic. They acted with purpose. And that changes everything. Because burying something like this is not a simple decision. It would have required coordinated work on a massive scale. It would have taken effort equal to, or perhaps even greater than, building it in the first place. So the question becomes unavoidable. Why would someone go to such lengths to hide it? Some researchers suggest preservation, that maybe the people who came later wanted to protect the site from damage, from time, or from changing cultures. But even that explanation feels
incomplete, because preservation does not usually require full burial under tons of earth. Others suggest ritual closure, that Göbekli Tepe may have been ceremonially closed as part of a cultural transition, marking the end of an era or belief system, a symbolic act of sealing something sacred away from the world. But there is another idea that lingers in the background, more uncomfortable than the rest. What if the goal was not preservation, but erasure? What if whoever buried Göbekli Tepe did not want it remembered clearly? Because when you look at the effort involved, it feels intentional in a way that goes beyond simple abandonment. It feels like someone wanted to ensure that what stood here would not easily return to memory.
And if that is true, then Göbekli Tepe is not just a monument. It is a hidden message sealed beneath layers of earth, waiting to be rediscovered thousands of years later by a civilization that no longer remembers its meaning. And yet, even after excavation, we still don't fully understand what we uncovered. Because every answer seems to create two new questions. So we are left with something deeply unsettling. A place built with impossible effort, and then hidden with equal determination. But why? Before we continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more mysteries like this, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next part. Because in the next chapter, everything we think we know about human history begins to shift. And Göbekli Tepe stops being just an archaeological site and starts becoming something much bigger. What Göbekli Tepe forces us to confront is not just a mystery of the past, but a problem in our understanding of the past itself. Because for a long time, the story of human civilization seemed simple. We were told that everything began with survival, then farming, then villages, and only after that came religion, art, and large-scale architecture. It was a clean progression, a neat ladder of progress that explained who we are and how we got here. But Göbekli Tepe does not climb that ladder. It breaks it. Here we find massive ceremonial structures built more than 11,000 years ago, long before agriculture was supposed to exist in the region, long before organized cities, long before written language. And yet here we are, looking at perfectly arranged stone circles carved with symbolic animals and patterns that suggest meaning far beyond basic survival. This creates a contradiction that archaeology cannot ignore. Either early humans were far more advanced socially and intellectually than we ever believed, or our timeline of development is missing something fundamental. And that is where the debate begins. Some researchers now argue that symbolic thinking, belief systems, and large-scale cooperation may have actually come first. That instead of agriculture creating civilization, it may have been shared ideas, rituals, and meaning that pushed humans toward building permanent structures and eventually farming. In this view, Göbekli Tepe is not an anomaly. It is a missing piece of a much larger picture we have not yet fully reconstructed. But even this theory does not fully resolve the tension. Because if early humans were capable of building something like this, then why does it appear so suddenly in the archaeological record? And why does it disappear without leaving a clear developmental path into later civilizations? There is a gap here, a silence in history that feels too large to ignore. And Göbekli Tepe sits directly inside that silence. It is as if we are looking at the remains of something that should have continued, something that should have evolved naturally into other known civilizations, but instead stops. And so we are left with an uncomfortable possibility that human history is not a smooth story of progress, but something more fragmented, something interrupted, something we are only beginning to piece together from scattered ruins buried beneath time. But even as we try to rebuild that story, Göbekli Tepe refuses to give us closure. Instead, it pushes us toward one final question, not just about history, but about what else we might still be missing entirely. Before we continue, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more documentaries like this, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the final part. Because in the next chapter, we reach the most important question of all, the one that still has no answer. After all the layers of Earth have been removed, after all the pillars have been studied, measured, and debated, Göbekli Tepe still leaves us standing in the same place we began, facing a question that refuses to disappear. Because despite decades of research, despite modern archaeology, satellite imaging, carbon dating, and endless academic debate, we still cannot fully explain what we are looking at. We can describe the stones, we can map the structures, we can analyze the carvings and compare them to other ancient symbols, but none of that gives us a complete answer. It only gives us fragments, and fragments are not enough to explain something this large. The truth is, Göbekli Tepe does something very rare in history. It creates a gap between what we know and what we assume we know. It forces us to admit that there may have been entire chapters of human development that never made it into the record. Entire societies that lived, built, believed, and disappeared long before written history began. And that idea is uncomfortable, because it means our story of the past might not be complete.
Some archaeologists remain cautious. They argue that we simply do not yet understand the complexity of early hunter-gatherer societies, and that Göbekli Tepe is evidence of their sophistication, not a contradiction of history. Others go further, suggesting that it represents a lost tradition of monument building that existed long before known civilizations. But no theory fully closes the gap, because the deeper question is not just who built it or how was it built. The deeper question is why it feels like something is missing, even after all the evidence is in front of us. And perhaps that is the real mystery of Göbekli Tepe. Not just the stones in the ground, but the silence around them. A silence that stretches across thousands of years, leaving no clear explanation, no continuous story, and no direct line connecting it to anything that came after. So we are left with something very simple and very unsettling. A place built with knowledge we still do not fully understand, buried for reasons we cannot clearly explain, and discovered in an age that is still trying to interpret its meaning. And maybe the most important question is not what Göbekli Tepe was, but what else in human history is still waiting to be uncovered beneath our assumptions. Before this documentary ends, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more deep historical mysteries, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Because Göbekli Tepe may not be the answer. It may only be the beginning of a much larger question we are only starting to ask.